That there is my 2018 Commencal all-mountain V4.2 Meta. It's a long name, I know, but it's an awesome bike. I've had it for 5 months. According to Strava, I've logged in 43 rides for 430 miles. And I can tell you today, I love the bike. I feel like this bike was made for me. Now, it isn't perfect, and I'll tell you about that here in a little bit. Bikes ain't cheap, and I think that it's important, you know, to consider all things and research the bike you're planning on buying to make sure that you don't experience buyer's remorse. So this year I've been fortunate to have owned 3 bikes: a 2018 Santa Cruz Nomad, 2017 Bronson, and then now I have this one, the 2018 Nomad. Amazing bike, beautiful bike, a dream bike. Now there's a reason on why I sold it, and you can watch that. The Bronson I had for a short while, and again it was a 2017 Bronson, and it was spec'd out pretty good. It was a great bike. Here's why I'm bringing that up. The Nomad was big, when it was released. They released it with that updated, more modern, longer, slacker geometry. Now I'm 5'9". According to the sizing charts, I'm at the end of the medium and at the start of the size large. And so it felt a little big, but I was getting used to it and I really liked the bike. And then I got the 2017 Bronson. Felt a little too small. Up until now, the geometry on that bike had not been updated for a few years. And so I say that to say this. On one extreme, I had a large Nomad, and then I had a medium Bronson. And I found that for me, the perfect bike would be one that would fit right in between. And this one, the Meta, fit perfectly in between those two. I didn't necessarily buy a Commencal because of the brand. I primarily bought it because of the geometry as well as the price point. With all of that said, here's what this review is going to consist of: the handling, the components, reliability. Handling. The geometry on this bike, in my opinion, it's spot on. The wheelbase, it's 1190 for a medium-sized frame. Just keeps it balanced, and it keeps it very steady when you're bombing downhill. The long wheelbase gives it that stability that it just inspires confidence. The head tube angle, it's 65.5, so it's intended to be more than a trail bike. It's intended to go fast. It's designed to be raced. So in terms of handling, I've ridden it in my local trails, which are fast, flowy, and techy, in my opinion. I've also taken it to bike park, and I've taken it to other trails where there's just a lot more chunkiness, they're a lot more rowdy, and some trails that just have a lot of exposure. And the bike does well. It handles really well. So the question often comes up in terms of handling, is it playful? Is it poppy? And the best way that I can answer that is simply, by comparing it to the other 2 bikes that I've had. It's more playful and more poppy than the Nomad, in my opinion. It's not as poppy or as playful as the Bronson that I had. It is an enduro race bike. It is aluminum. It does weigh, more so than the other 2 bikes. It is. It's playful, it's poppy, but not as much as a trail bike, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The other question that comes up is, how does it climb? It climbs well. It gets me to the top so that I can, go downhill. I do find that I have to, you know, lean a little bit forward to keep that front end from coming up. It isn't so bad that I have to, you know, think about it. I just naturally do it. I know I have to lean a little bit forward when things get a little steeper. It does well. It takes me to the top. And then once it's time to come down, that's when the fun really begins. And I think that's where this bike excels at. It's on the descents. Now, the last thing in terms of handling and more specifically geometry, the reach on this bike, it's 435 on the medium. That was something that I was also looking at, that I was concerned with, because when I compare the reach on my Nomad to the reach on the Bronson, they were both on the other side of the spectrum, I guess. I needed a reach that was in between. And 435 gives me enough space to shift my weight back and forth, you know, as needed. I think that's important, at least it is to me, because, you know, I continue to look for ways to progress, to go faster, and just having, you know, that ample space, it gives me that, you know, that confidence to experiment without having to fear, you know, going over the bars. So again, the reach at 435, spot on. Now, in terms of components, it's spec'd just right for the price tag on this bike. But I'm not going to, you know, review the components. I'm just gonna say that I love the Lyric 170 up front, 3 positions. I find that for the most part, I ride in that pedal middle position, and it works great. I think it came with 1 token, and I've not added any more. And the Super Deluxe shock out back, 160 mils of travel. I've not added any spacers. That's only a 2 position. It just locks out and it's open. And the bike does come with a remote lockout for the shock. I think I've used it 5 times maybe since I've had it. Single track, climbing, I just leave it open. Suspension, I think it's awesome. Now, what I am not happy with is the saddle. So the stock saddle sucks. Stock saddle sucks. I honestly don't know why I didn't replace it, you know, sooner, but I finally did. So if you do consider buying one of these bikes, I highly recommend buy a new saddle. The other thing that I'm not happy with, the guide brakes that it comes with, the REs. If you do some research on, you know, sticky levers for guide brakes, if you Google that, you'll find, you know, a lot of people out there have had issues with their guide brakes from, I don't know what range of years, suffered from this, you know, this defect. Part inside up front, it swells up with the heat, and it doesn't allow the lever to return to its position. So you squeeze it and it stays put. It's only done it once, and it was a hot day, and I'll probably end up drive down to the bike shop and get them warranted. So those are the 2 components that I'm not very happy with. Now, let's talk about reliability. I think that for the price nowadays, these bikes should be able to take anything we throw at them within reason, which brings me to this point. This here is a rocker link, and I had to replace it. If you own a Commencal, Meta, take a look at the bearings on this rocker link, because the bearings have a tendency to come out over time. And if they come out far enough, they're gonna start rubbing against the clevis, and it's just gonna create more damage. Anyways, definitely check out the bearings on this rocker. Once you know it's there, you can continue to monitor and tighten things up a little bit to keep them from coming out even further after every ride, but you shouldn't have to do that. It sounds like they have a long list of replacement parts to send out, but once the part did arrive, they, you know, sent it overnight and installed it. Doesn't take a whole lot to put it on. From what they're telling me, this is Commencal USA. The 2019 models do not have this issue. So bringing this to a close, I'm definitely happy with this bike. After 430 plus miles on it, it's doing awesome, with the exception of the things that I mentioned already. I think this bike is definitely worth, you know, the price tag. You know, you asked me today, am I happy with it? My answer is absolutely. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, thank you for watching, and God bless.